Welcome back. The Dominican Republic is perhaps best known for its tourism. Thousands of people visit the country each year to enjoy the beaches and the sun. But few tourists ever see what are considered to be some of the poorest parts of the country, communities known as bateys. One of the biggest challenges facing these communities is how to deal with HIV rates, which are much higher than elsewhere in the country. Ross Velton brings us this report.
This might have been the ghost of Mary Castro, revisiting the house in which she lay dying of an incurable disease. But this is really Mary. She didn't die, although she came pretty close. 5 years ago, she was a lot thinner than she is now. Her body was covered in sores and her hair was falling out. A doctor said she had AIDS and that nothing could be done to save her.
I thought I was going to die. I planned to hang myself, to poison myself. I thought that was the end of my life. I was thinking, I'm going to die. I'm going to die.
So Mary stayed at home and waited to die. She was another person living with HIV in the bateys of the Dominican Republic. Few people know the bateys as well as Ulrich Gaillard does.
The batey is an old Taino Indian term for village attached to sugarcane plantations. When you say batey, you also think of Haitians crossing the border into Dominican Republic to work on sugarcane plantations. And then later on, poor Dominican families also moved into the bateys because of low cost of living and share the villages with the Haitian cane cutters.
These poor villages where Haitians and Dominicans live life the best they can are notorious for their high HIV rates. Pepe Castro, who works to improve the lives of people living in the bateys, knows the figures by heart.
The average HIV rate in the bateys is 3.2% of people infected, and the national average is 0.8%.
Some blame the Haitian migrants for this, since Haiti itself has some of the highest HIV rates in the Caribbean. But for others, it's more about having hard lives than being Haitian.
Conditions of vulnerability, which come from the poverty, no access to the health system, and the low levels in education, are the main factors which have led to the high prevalence of HIV.
And another factor could be the very thing for which the Dominican Republic is known: tourism. This fun in the sun is taking place on a beach less than an hour from some of the poorest bateys in the country. Tourists spend money, and some think they're buying more than pieces of fruit.
Tourism is going to have a negative influence. Why? Because some tourists come looking for sexual adventures, so they are going to find in these poor communities the practice of sex in exchange for gifts or services or prostitution.
There's another theory about prostitution in the bateys. It's to do with the decline of the sugarcane business in the Dominican Republic.
Women at the time, actually, they were depending on the men to provide. And when those men actually become unable to work as a result of the fall of the sugar production, the women had to do something. And the easiest thing for them to do was to prostitute. And then you have them going into the city to find work or prostitute inside the bateys or the rural environment.
At this batey, Richard Yan lives and works with people who have HIV. He's seen how hard it can be in the bateys for people who've got the virus.
HIV-positive people are always stigmatized, are always pointed at, and this is why they are scared about confessing their condition to others.
1 in 20 people in this batey are HIV positive, but no one would agree to an interview. That's because most of them are afraid of the gossip. Now that's quite a common fear in these small communities where everyone knows one another. This family are living, not with HIV, but with the stigma of it. The children are orphans. They lost their father in a motorcycle accident, and then their mother to diabetes. Their grandmother now looks after them. She says people think the mother died of AIDS because she turned to prostitution after her husband died. But this boy just remembers a mother who used to buy him ice creams. Mary Castro was also a prostitute, and she's also felt the stigma of having HIV.
One day my mother cooked sweet beans and gave some to a young woman. She gave it to someone else who asked, "Did you go to that house? Don't you know Mary has AIDS? Are you eating